Now we move on to the best bill ever, House File. I will move House File 3819 to be re-referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Okay, Chair West, are you ready?
I'm ready for action.
Okay. The House File 3819 will be re-referred to the Judiciary Committee. You have an author's amendment.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the A1 amendment.
Okay, to the A1 amendment, if you'd like to go ahead and describe it, please.
The A1 amendment incorporates some feedback we got from the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. So it makes some minor changes to accommodate input they had. And I would appreciate if members would amend the bill.
Okay. Go to questions first or move the amendment? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? The motion prevails. Sorry, I'm out of practice here. And the amendment is adopted. So, Chair West, to your bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So House File 3819 is a bill to address what we've been hearing a lot about in recent days related to the integrity of state government programs. Now, we spent a lot of time in this committee asking questions of the department, talking with experts and stakeholders, and trying to get to the bottom of how can we ensure that state programs are used for the intended purpose and not exploited by those who do not truly need any assistance. And one thing we've seen, state programs aren't doing so hot. Even in a report that was 90% redacted, we see an estimate $1 billion worth of fraud. It has been a very, very it's not a good look for Minnesota and our government, which we used to be known for good government. So with that in mind, we have to do something about this. I mean, the fraud epidemic has gotten so bad that it's no longer just Republicans pointing to the fraud. Now it seems, based on the actions of the governor, that we do have some bipartisan movement and bipartisan concern about addressing the integrity of state programs. So what House File 3819 does is, number one, it has the department put out a report annually of disaggregated program data that shows what they have done related to fraud. That is one of the big concerns. One of the ways things get blown up and people really don't have any faith is if they feel that their government is not doing anything. And demonstrating what is being done on fraud would go a long way to restoring some faith in our government's ability to have integrity in their programs. The bill also clarifies that inspections must be in person and they must not give advance notice. Now, this is very important because one of the things we heard while talking to the Inspector General and others from the department is that there is a difference between a licensing visit and a program integrity visit. Now, there's a licensing visit every year, but the fraud reporting element of it is optional. And one concern is, well, how bad does it have to be for a licensing visit to actually fill out that optional paperwork? What we have seen does not inspire confidence. And that's one of the reasons why this has been a national news story. So, requiring inspectors to consult our new and improved electronic attendance tracking on their visits will help ensure that at the very least, they're checking the attendance, seeing it, if it jives from what's there. Because what we have heard is that it's optional, and it likely needs to be pretty bad for an inspector to actually want to do something. Whereas I think Minnesotans expect government to be judicious about detecting fraud in their programs. The bill also establishes a deadline, another issue that came up. And believe it or not, when we ask the department questions in this committee, it does affect how we write our bills. We heard the rollout plan for electronic attendance, which is one of the few things that was done to address fraud in recent sessions. And it was said that, okay, we're going to roll it out partially, and then we're going to roll it out to almost everyone probably down the road, but we didn't get any specifics from the department. So this is expected to start in June. This bill, with the enactment date of January 2027, says, okay, you're going to roll it out January 1, 2027. You have 6 months to figure it out. And given how long it's taken and how much money we've appropriated, I feel confident that the department can meet that. This also requires centers that receive more than $500,000 of CCAP and or early learning scholarship money to have one additional licensing visit, well, to ensure they are meeting the standards that we have laid out. And it requires them to have cameras covering their entrances and exits. Now, there have been only a few convicted fraud cases in Minnesota in the last several years related to the CCAP program, and I believe one of them talked about children would go in the front door and then out the back. And if the centers, which if we at this limit, we would be capturing an enormous amount of the total CCAP dollars spent, if these centers that have over $500,000 of taxpayer money were required to have cameras, the department would be able to access those cameras, well, not access the cameras, but request the footage from the provider and be able to verify whether or not they are reporting their attendance accurately. It's a cost-effective way of ensuring the integrity of the system because we want the people who actually need the assistance to get the assistance. And I mean, $1 of fraud is too many, but certainly what we've seen in other programs is the number is enormous. It also, so the original bill had a 28-day data retention, but in conversations with the department, they said we need more than that if we are going to use this in our investigations. So the amendment put that up to 90 days because they have to show a pattern if they are going to pursue an investigation to some sort of action. They need that evidence. And it also, if they cannot provide the footage that they are retaining, that can be used as evidence that they did not care for children in that time, so that there can be no funny business in these situations. And lastly, it restores the penalty of perjury when submitting false attendance records, or records in general. Now, this used to be how things were done prior to 2013. So this is merely reinstating what has been done in the past, and it addresses one of the biggest concerns is it's very difficult. We have vulnerabilities. The Office of the Legislative Auditor and others pointed out vulnerabilities, but trying to bring it into an area where we can actually have a conviction or some sort of rooting out of fraud is incredibly difficult, and they don't really have the tools to do so. So these things as a whole are a relatively balanced approach. It's nothing radical. Most of this has been heard before, but it's a very cost-effective, efficient way to take seriously the concerns of fraud, because we want these systems to go to those who need it. We know tough economic times are ahead, and this is a way that we can efficiently target the highest dollar amounts for extra integrity measures so that people can receive the assistance who actually need it, and Minnesotans as a whole can have confidence in their public assistance systems. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Okay, I think before we go to testimony, Chair Katiza Watun has a question.
Thank you, Chair Nelson. And Chair West, you just said that this was very similar to how things were done prior to 2013. And I missed what part of the bill you were talking about, and I'm hoping that you can just clarify, because of course that was before either of us were in the legislature, and just want to make sure that I'm understanding properly.
Chair West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chair Katiza Watun, for the question. Referring only to the perjury section, on just that.
Okay. All right, Chair Katiza Watun.
Thank you, Chair Nelson. That was just a quick point of clarification. We're going to allow the chair to move on with his bill presentation and testifiers.
Okay. I think we'll get at questions in a little bit. Right now, we are running on kind of a limited time, so we do have some public testimony. I know that these folks have traveled to get here, taken off time, so we are going to get to that. And if you could, please keep your comments brief. We are running low on time, and I know that you did take time out of your day to come here. So with that, we will go to Courtney Greiner. And then after that, Maria Schneider, if you could kind of maybe make your way up to the testifying table. So Ms. Greiner, if you would please introduce yourself for the record and then proceed to the testimony.
Absolutely. My name is Courtney Greiner. I own a licensed childcare center serving 90 children and 30 employees, which allows hundreds of people in our community to go to work every day. I work with all of these amazing providers in the crowd and many more that can't be here today. I was also here last year during the same, not the same bill, but similar bill, and continue to show up desperately trying to help you understand that the impossible margins and unfunded mandates are killing us. This isn't a dog and pony show to me. This is my life. This is my work. This is my career, and this is my dream. And instead of doing that work, here I am again, defending myself and other providers in this room against unwarranted attacks and expensive mandates. I also went to DC last week. We were invited to visit Stauber's office, and instead of inviting us in the door, we were met in the hallway because he was hosting Nick Shirley and David Hawk instead. Those are the same people whose viral videos caused harm that you heard earlier, defecating on doorsteps, death threats, and harassment. Many of you in this room celebrated those videos, shared on social media, and continue this harm that the two men caused through narrative. These were multiple grown men harassing child care centers and the children and teachers inside of them. According to some of you, that earlier, those are the ones that should be in jail, that we should have stronger legislation for. If you believe this bill will prevent fraud, you're mistaken. Instead, it targets providers of color, providers who care for low-income families, and the kids that they provide care for. Monique said it before, our brown and black children have already been through enough. These are our children, our neighbors, and these are my colleagues and friends that this is harming. That's the environment this bill is being born into. The bill was here last year. It's back this year alongside federal fraud narrative and federal funding freeze due to alleged fraud.
If you could please wrap up your testimony.
I do have cameras at my center. They were paid for grant money. They're expensive and not cost efficient or affordable. And like other technology, they aren't perfect. Power goes out, cameras fail. This is a reality. These are expensive systems.
Ms.
now-
Ms. Greiner, if you could
Yep.
please wrap up your
Yep.
testimony.
I just want to name the last 6 months have been unbearable. And if you want to protect children, invest in us, the people who have dedicated our lives to caring for them. Give us the resources they need to ensure every child is safe and cared for. This isn't it. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Snyder.
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 Thanks. When the federal government threatened to cut off child care assistance for 23,000 children in December, I feared that it was part of a larger strategy to discredit child care providers and ultimately cut funding for child care assistance, which truly helps thousands of Minnesota families. I saw this happen in 2018, almost like the same narrative on repeat, and I see it coming to reality now with this bill. A fear-based narrative around fraud is being used to override children's rights, compromise their confidentiality, and create new pathways to criminalize childcare providers like me. I want to put some of the numbers in context. $500,000 of childcare assistance that's a lot of money, right? It's about 20 preschoolers, so that's one classroom. I heard a comment from Representative West that it's pretty cost-effective. It might be cost-effective for the state, but it wouldn't be very cost-effective for me, a small business owner. I would have to pay out of pocket for those cameras, and it's pretty expensive. The last estimate I got was about $12,000 for cameras. This requires video monitoring without providing funding or support. Camera systems, we're not IT departments, we're educators. The bill also states that if footage cannot be produced for a period of time, it will be treated as evidence that 0 children were cared for. Technology fails, systems glitch, humans make mistakes, and to treat that as proof of fraud is unreasonable and overly punitive. We don't impose this level of government surveillance on dentists or nursing homes or other licensed service providers, regardless of what people are saying on YouTube. The truth is that childcare is one of the most heavily regulated industries in our state, and this bill will ultimately reduce the number of providers that are willing to accept childcare assistance, which is a number that's already shrinking due to many of the factors you've heard about today. It will deter families from accessing childcare assistance because they don't want their 6-week-olds surveilled by the government, and deter families in general from enrolling in programs that accept CCAP because even their kids would also be on these government surveillance cameras.
Ms. Snyder, if you could please wrap up your testimony.
If we care about preventing fraud, I really hope that we will invest in training, collaboration, family affordability, and living wages for teachers, not surveillance and punishment. Thank you for your time.
Monique, please.
Again, my name is Monique Stuman. I'm here today because, no disrespect, but the people that are writing these bills are not the ones up at 6 a.m. opening doors, feeding our children, comforting toddlers, and holding this system together. We are the ones holding this system together, and we want to be at the table. I just recently got awarded guardianship of the child that I've been caring for the last 9 months. He was in my infant program. He was in my toddler program, and his grandmother saw fit when she passed away for me to care for him. We are not criminals. The great majority, I can't stop saying that. And I feel like that's how you guys treat us. And it is unfair. Again, Senator West, I was at that round table and I felt your pain. And I felt your rage to the point where I was shaken to my core with your response. And you came to me and apologized afterwards. And I took that to heart. And I took that you were going to listen. And I took that you were going to understand what we needed as well. I have cameras as well, and I have had to turn them off and turn them back on a number of times in the last 3 years because I can't afford them. I got a child, foster child, that I'm caring for, not getting enough money for. But I'm doing it because this is what I choose to do. But for you all to belittle what we're doing or undervalue us or disrespect us, because that's what it feels like, Senator McDonald. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like, Senator Olson. That's what it feels like.
Monique,
It feels like y'all are dishonoring us, disvaluing us.
if you could please wrap up your testimony.
So I'm saying, don't put any more pressure on us. The people that are committing these frauds, hold them accountable. But don't make all of us pay for it. Don't make all of us suffer. Because a great majority of us, we kept your kids during COVID. We stayed open. That appreciation that you gave us then, give it to us now. Give it to us now. I beg of you, don't put any more burdens on us. The people that are doing this, then yes, put that on them, but not us that are doing this out of what we love to do. And so again, I keep asking you all, stop making us feel like we are criminals, because we are not.
Next, we have Claire Sanford on the list. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee. I'm still Claire Sanford and still with the Minnesota Child Care Association. I would like to talk about one overarching concern in this bill. It seems that we keep, and we've talked about this, the committee has talked about this today, mixing financial fraud and program integrity with licensing and safety issues, and they are, two different things. Financial fraud is a crime, obviously, and a disgusting one, and it is different from regulatory citations. A provider can have a perfect licensing record and still be intentionally bilking the state. A provider can have a horrendous licensing record and have perfect and ethical accounting. They are not the same thing. I'd like to speak to the program integrity portions of this bill. MCCA has no issue with truly unannounced licensing visits. Let's do it. Electronic attendance records, we've supported that. It's to be implemented later this year. We have no issue with additional scrutiny for programs receiving public funding and look forward to continuing to work through issues in this bill to get it to a place that could work for providers. But there are some examples in here of the things we'd like to continue to have conversation about, such as, is the best answer to additional scrutiny for a certain threshold of public money at a provider? If that's a program integrity issue, is the best response another licensing visit, or would it be another auditing visit from the Office of Inspector General? Because they're the ones who are actually looking at the fraud issue and double checking things, whereas the licensors are there looking at your diaper changing procedure and so on and so forth. The video monitoring issues that have been brought up, it does not seem unreasonable to set a threshold of public funding and have additional scrutiny for that. But, you know, the tech issues, the no hold harmless for other licensing violations that might show up in that video, like is in HF.
Ms. Sanford, if we could wrap up the testimony,
Oh,
please.
sure.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, it's okay. And the dollar threshold to prompt additional scrutiny, it would be good to know a fiscal note and the number of programs affected. I believe the 1 million threshold was about 100 centers statewide, so I don't know what it would cost to have the additional staff of the state to carry out more visits if the threshold was 500K. And also, as another testifier pointed out, it sounds like an astronomical amount of public money, but that can be, 500K can be 11% of the kids served at 150 child care center. And the last thing I'll say is also to a previous point, we have to find the sweet spot on financial threshold and regulatory burden because we don't want more families using public supports turned away from child care providers who are trying to reduce their costs and regulatory burden. Thank you.
Okay. And I think we have one testifier via Zoom.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, if you could introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Amanda Ashton, and as a parent of young children, my family relies on childcare every single day. I've seen firsthand the love, care, and dedication that our early educators pour into my kids. I'm here in strong opposition to this bill. First, This bill unfairly targets children whose families rely on CCAP, families who are disproportionately low income, and families of color. Singling out centers serving these children for heightened surveillance sends a troubling message that these families deserve less trust and more scrutiny. That is plainly discrimination. Second, CCAP providers already operate under extensive compliance requirements. Mandating cameras come with installation costs, data storage requirements, maintenance, and important privacy management, which creates yet another unfunded burden for providers already stretched to the limit. Perhaps most critically, using cameras as anti-fraud is fundamentally inappropriate when we are talking about young children. Requiring centers to record and store video footage of children introduces serious privacy and security risks. The risk that that footage of young children could be accessed or weaponized is not hypothetical. It's real, and it is unacceptable. All children deserve safe, nurturing environments built on trust, not invasive state surveillance imposed on families simply because they need assistance. Installing cameras as a symbolic solution to a minimal problem does not strengthen childcare. It undermines it. This is not an appropriate recommendation. I urge you all to reject this bill and instead focus on policies that truly strengthen childcare and protect children. By this, I mean sustainable funding that makes childcare more affordable for families, higher livable wages for our highly trained early educators, which creates professionalism and stability for our teachers. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there any other public testimony? Okay, hearing none. I think it was Rep. Hansen, Representative, Co-Vice Chair Hansen has a question.
Thank you, Chair Nelson. It's good to be today. I offer the DE, I'd like to move the DE1 amendment, please.
We have the DE1 before us. Representative Hansen moves the DE1. And let's see. Yeah, go ahead and speak to your amendment.
Thank you, Chair. This is an amendment we've seen before. I'll be quick given the time. I'm hoping that we can lay this on the table and continue this conversation hopefully another day and not try to rush through it. I do think this is a really important conversation that we need to be having. As I've talked about before, I'm not opposed to cameras in daycares. That's not my position. But I do think it's important that we talk about how we don't cut corners in public policy that involves the safety of our children, particularly in the era where they are facing the assaults of child sexual abusers more than ever before on the internet. And so their images are susceptible to this. We know the images of children and toddlers are among the most sought after images by pedophiles and predators who seek to create AI child porn, and that is driving up a lot of other issues that I could go on and on and on about. So for the sake of time, my DE1 puts the cart behind the horse and the horse in front of the cart, as it should be. So before we continue to move too fast, we get some guardrails in place for what surveilling children in childcare looks like. So this is a task force that would be tasked with giving us a recommendation here at the legislature, comprised of cybersecurity experts, members from both bodies of the legislature, parents who've had their children harmed or worse, tragically in a childcare facility, childcare workers from a variety of settings, folks from the department, attorneys who have worked on these cases, and law enforcement who's worked on these cases, and I'm open to any suggestions for others. And then making sure that they're giving us some recommendations about how we can design some best practices around this, including encryption for stored video footage, how we can notify parents of any data breaches, things like that. I think it's fair to assume, I think we heard earlier, one of the providers say, I'm not an IT center, I'm a childcare provider, and I don't think it's fair to expect these small business owners to take on that task as well, given the childcare crisis we're in, nor to absorb the costs that these would have. So I think before we charge forward with a mandate like this without any identified funds to help support it, we should really take a moment and take a breath and look at what we can do to get this right. Our children's safety is on the line. If you're not familiar with how prevalent child sexual abuse material is right now, you will be disgusted if you Google it. The first 10, 15 pages of Google results will be very recent articles talking about every single law enforcement agency around the globe, every NGO around the globe, every policymaker around the globe having some, messages to policymakers around the globe asking us to get ahead of this. This is a chance that we have to be the North Star state that we are and to shine and to get ahead of something that is not quite here yet because they are still struggling to get access to these CCTV footage, but it's not impossible. So sorry for going long, but that's what my amendment is. Thanks.
Thank you. Chair West to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Co-Vice Chair Hansen. If anybody's talked to me for a little bit, they've heard how much I loathe task forces in general. That is because sometimes they work, but generally, if people don't like the results, changes nothing. In addition, if some creeper wants to have access and film children, there are a number of ways they can do so. This particular bill has cameras at the entrances and exits, which many centers already do have that. And a perp could probably he could sit in a parking lot and film them from afar, which is gross and disgusting, but it's certainly something that can happen, and that would be better footage on their creepy high-def camera than a security camera. So I would urge members not to support this DE amendment.
Okay. Thank you, and
Chair Nelson, can I respond to that?
Vice
For my-
Chair. Quickly.
Thank you, Chair. Just really quick, I understand that task forces aren't always the best way, but we are not experts. None of us are cybersecurity experts. None of us can foresee what's happening. I think I may be one of the only ones on this committee as familiar with the prevalence of child sexual abuse material, and I would love to sit down and tell you everything I know about this because it is so ugly and so awful, and this used to be a bipartisan issue of protecting children from pedophiles and predators like this, and I think it still is. I really do. I do think there is support on both sides of the aisle to get this right, and I don't think that this assigning it to a task force is brushing it off or pushing it down the road. I actually think this is getting ahead of it. And we would all have something to bring back to our districts to say, this is what I did to fight against one of the most dangerous things children face. There will be 3 million babies born this year. 1 million of them will be molested before they turn 18. We have to face this, and we have to talk about how dangerous this is. And this is the committee where these conversations have to happen. This is the Children and Families Committee. This is a danger our children are facing. Please join me in getting this right. We cannot cut corners on this, folks. Please. Thank you.
With that, all in favor of the DE1, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
I think it's probably tied, so it fails. And to the bill as amended, and referring it to the Judiciary Committee.
Chair Nelson, I would like to move that we lay this over so that we can continue to have a more broad conversation. Given the time, I think a lot of my members are wanting to ask more questions, but we're clearly out of time. So unless you guys have magically found more time.
I don't know. We did get permission to go over. So, yeah, we did get permission to go over. I know that we are getting quite long, but I don't know.
Chair Nelson, then
There
if that's the request, then I would just ask that before we go to a vote, that members would be given a chance to speak. I think the assumption was because of the time that we were probably going to lay it over and bring it back up. So just before we go to a vote, I would just like to give my members the courtesy of having a chance to talk to.
So, with Chair West, any?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members while we've discussed many of these issues already, we are happy to have discussions as we move through the process, but these bills do need to move in order for them to advance. So I would move that we refer the bill to the Judiciary Committee as amended.
Quickly, Representative Coulter.
Well, first of all, I'd like to request a roll call. I have to say, I understand that we went a little bit longer on the first bill than I think any of us expected, but I object to being pushed along on this bill. This is a big bill. This does serious things, and we need more time to discuss this. So I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna ask my questions And I hope I can get to my kids' conference at 6 o'clock. So I want to just sort of start off generally. My understanding is the premise of this bill is that it is an effective way to deter and investigate fraud is to mandate video cameras on private property. Am I getting that correctly?
Chair West.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Representative Coulter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative West, for making it clear that, on the record, that we believe that that is an effective way to get at fraud. The reason I ask this is that on February 9th of this year, less than a month ago, one person who lives in Prior Lake was charged with $350 million of tax fraud, a bigger number that you might remember than the Feeding Our Future issue. $350 million. He also, according to the indictment, advised a group of, quote, sovereign citizens on how they could do the same thing. So you used a term, I was going to ask you this question, but I won't, but you used the term programs a lot. And I think what that betrays, or what the message, I should say, the message that sends, whatever I think your intent may be, is that fraud is not as important if it comes from other sources, if it comes from tax fraud, if it comes from dollars that certain kinds of people use in certain kind of ways. But the questions that I want to ask, so Representative Hansen, I think, alluded to this. We obviously had a big discussion about this last year, about cameras and surveillance of kids. And my understanding was that
we are out of time. Chair West, if you could give your closing remarks.
excuse me?
Yeah, we have to be done at 5 o'clock. That's what we're.
Mr. Chair.
Chair West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I'm not one to jam people. So I think I would move to lay this bill over because I am about the policy, and I hope that members can restrain their outrage and channel that into productive activities and avoid besmirching other members' integrity and focus on the task in front of us. And to that end is how seriously I take policy work, because it drives me nuts to do stupid politics. And that is why I would rather lay the bill over than do any shenanigans. So, Mr. Chair, I don't even know if I can do that because I'm not chairing the committee, actually. But,
Okay.
Chair.
So, with that, House File 3819 is laid over.